Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Tucker Sennett, your lead beat writer for NC State on SI, joined by my good friend Daniel Rios, my assistant beat writer, also covering the Wolfpack. Daniel, how are we doing today?
North Carolina State football in just a couple of days, so we're almost there.
Okay. We're excited to watch some ball. And because we're excited to watch some ball, we are going to give our predictions for this week one matchup with East Carolina. Coming up on Thursday, kickoff at 7 o'clock East, 7 o'clock Eastern time, at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh here. I will be on site, boots on the ground, covering this game. Excited to see the scene. I'll be there pretty early, checking out the parking lot and such, give you some good sights and sounds from the game. Um, should be fun. But let's dive into how we think the game is going to go. Just before we do this, let's give some context. Obviously, this is the matchup that's happened recently. The last time these two teams played football was against each other in December in that Military Bowl game. ECU stole that one, ended in that big brawl. Dave Doran talked about how embarrassed he was for the program, etc. 8 players ejected, a referee attacked. It was a mess, absolute mess. But this team has done some soul searching, some rebuilding in the coaching staff. It feels like a different vibe in the building than when it ended last year. I think there's sort of a maturity that has built over this fall camp, that I'm not totally sure was there when the season ended last year. And I think a lot of that is because it's an older group now. They were pretty inexperienced last year, and now a lot of these guys are sophomores, juniors, who came back and have that experience being in the program. Let's dive into the game. Dan, what are your like initial feelings, inklings, predictions, nuggets, maybe some stats that you want to throw in here about the matchup?
There's no, I think just as I look at it, just from a outside perspective, is this is going to be a really good test for this defense in for the first game of the season. And a lot of people may remember, Rajay Harris and his, big 86-yard touchdown run and how big, that kind of put that game away. But this East Carolina offense, I think, is, one of the better offenses this Wolfpack defense will face this season. And I think it all starts with their quarterback, Caden Hauser. He didn't have a too good of a game in the Military Bowl, but last season, I mentioned it in one of our podcasts earlier. This unit was 27th in passing offense for the entire season last year. And I think with a new secondary, I mean, you lose three starters from last season, I'm pretty sure. It was either three or two. And now you're trying to replenish that talent either from within the program or bringing outside guys like Brian Nelson. I'm just eager to see how they all gel together for that first game. And I think the biggest thing is while this secondary is new, this East Carolina offensive core remains the same. You have running backs returning, you have receivers returning, your starting quarterback returns, the coaching staff is the same. So I think it's going to be a lot of continuity from them coming into this season, opposed to the Wolfpack, who are going to have, you have a new defensive coordinator, you have a new scheme. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve these first couple of games. So I think we're going to get a very quick answer on if this Wolfpack defense is better this season within this first game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of optimism about the group. I think just size wise, I think they match up pretty well with ECU in that sense.
Yeah.
I think they're a little bit bigger. And probably, ECU is going to try and make the game ugly. That's typically what these mid-major, group of five conference teams try to do against power conference teams. And this is a rivalry, so they're going to try to muck things up and make this as a very unenjoyable experience for Wolfpack fans as much as they can. I don't know that they're going to be able to for the whole game. I really don't think their offense is going to be able to. CJ Bailey talked today about just picking up. He said, they like to blitz from a lot of different angles, a lot of directions, and I do think even though the players might change, they didn't have any significant staff changes. They're rolling with Blake Harrell at head coach after he took over last year. I believe the coordinators all came back. It's going to look similar, and I think playing a game against a team that was literally the last team you played, even if the players are a little different, is more beneficial for NC State just because they've had so much time to prepare for kind of the same group, whereas ECU is going to be preparing for some different looks, especially
Yeah.
on the defensive end. So I think Bailey, I could see this game starting a little slow. ECU puts together, a kind of a long, grinding 6-minute field goal drive, gets on the board, gets a little quiet in there, sort of like what Stanford did to Hawaii this past
Yeah.
weekend, where it doesn't look pretty, but they go down the field, they score, and you're just like, the fan base is sort of this is going to be an ugly game. And then I think they wake up. I think NC State wakes up late first quarter. Bailey starts slinging the ball a little bit. He talked about, working with Justin Jolie. Interesting nugget from today. He did name drop Teddy Hoffman. So I think I'm not going to say it confirms that he's going to be a contributor in this offense day one, but I'm pretty confident that the freshman is going to get some reps. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard his name come up repeatedly. And it's not just from Bailey either. It's from, the defensive backs that have been interviewed. His name keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So I think he has the size for it. Um, it is kind of hard to come in as a true freshman unless you're Jeremiah Smith, but I
And Ryan Williams.
and Ryan Williams, yeah. I think he'll have like, that one big play against, either East Carolina or like, a Campbell or something like that,
Yeah.
where it's just, one of those big plays you have as a freshman. But I think
I go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think he's good for like maybe 20 something catches, something like that, something smaller, unless he's just that guy. But yeah,
Yeah, the only reason I think he could be poised for a bigger role than that is because he might be in the slot. That's kind of what
yeah,
his background is, and I feel like that's sort of a safety net in college football, or are those slot guys if they're reliable. And I think, he and Jolie obviously will be working kind of opposite each other. So that could be an interesting tandem to watch. Well, your speed guys are Grimes and Rogers on the outside.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I did my bold stat predictions last night. I had Bailey throwing for 3 touchdowns, so I think they get on the board, and they sort of dominate, not necessarily on the scoreboard in the second quarter, but they put some points up, and it feels like they're in control of the game. They go up maybe 8 points, like a 14-6 type deal.
Yeah.
Going into half, I think there's some frustration that they're not performing better than that within the coaching staff. They come out in the second half and they rip things off. They get the offense going in the third quarter. I think Bailey starts to see the field a little bit better, with that height and that vision, a little more experience. And I think this is when a guy like Joe Lee could really take over the game, and you go up 16 points in the third quarter or so, and then you sort of every team in college struggles in a game where you're in control, but you still got to play hard, but it's like the
Yeah.
game's kind of over. We saw this a lot last year with a lot of different teams where it's just tough to get across the finish line when you know you have a team beat, but you can't quite like quit on the game.
Mhm.
It's just tough to keep that mindset. So I think ECU ends up putting some points on the board late, maybe some garbage stuff. And I have this ending as a 35-20 game. Um, I think NC State puts up some nice numbers. I don't think it's a straight blowout. I don't think we're going to see 50 points from this offense in game one. But I do think they'll show that they're a little bit more creative than what they were last year. And I think where Hollywood Smothers starts to show up is down the stretch there. They'll start feeding him the ball to really chew that clock and get this game over with.
Yeah, so for my score prediction, I I suck at these really bad. Just a little
Way
nugget.
to don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna give a great example of ASU. We were both on that beat last year, me and Tucker. That Wyoming game, it was obviously no one kind of knew ASU would be where they were, and I remember I forgot
What
what
was
I said,
it?
but
21
I
nothing first quarter or something?
yeah, like 5 minutes in, 21 nothing. But I remember telling one of our buddies, they're like, "Oh, what do you think the score is gonna be?" And I remember I was like, "Yeah, I don't remember exactly what my score was, but I said that it was gonna be like a one score game." And they proceeded to blow them out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a manhandling. So I just kind of look at this, and even though I did say that I feel like this is gonna be a test for this defense, I don't know. I just kind of feel like CJ Bailey comes out and makes a statement within his performance. So I may surprise you with my pick. I think they're gonna go ahead and put up 40. I want to say like 42 to like 24, 28 around there. I feel like this defense. I was laughing when you said it. It just screams to me like East Carolina gets the ball first, and it's like the worst drive you've seen,
Yeah.
and they somehow like, oh, they get stopped in the red zone. We're
It's
gonna settle
it's
for three.
a perfect way of describing a drive like that is all that for a drop of blood. It's
Yeah,
just like you
yeah,
it takes forever. There's no explosive plays. It's like 6 yard runs
yeah,
where you're just frustrated. You can't get them off the field, and eventually the drive disintegrates a little bit, and they kick a field goal. That's
yeah.
that's that's how I feel like the game is going to start, and there's going to be some nervous energy. And like you said, I think Bailey comes out and just rips off some throws and builds that confidence.
Yeah, and 42 may be a little high, but just exactly what I said about the East Carolina offense. This North Carolina State offense, it's the exact same unit. Like there's not much of a difference. You bring in, Kurt Roper as the offensive coordinator. He was there last year. So it's just that same continuity. And this East Carolina defense, they were really only good at taking the ball away last year. They were pretty bad in every other aspect. Um, and like you said, I think they're gonna send a bunch of pressure towards Bailey. He struggled with pressure in 2024. So I think we're gonna see how he's developed over these past, 8, 7 months if he can handle that pressure. But I think there's going to be a busted coverage somewhere. I think Hollywood, breaks a run. I do like this offensive line for North Carolina State. The defensive line in East Carolina, it's a lot of returners. But realistically, I just don't think that they're really going to put up much of a fight against this North Carolina State offensive line. So that's why I just feel like it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than people think. Um, but I just think the NC State offense is just going to be too much.
So you got a 42-28. Is that your official call?
Well, let's do 24. Let's do
Okay.
24.
42-24 for Dan, 35-20 for me. Um, any bold stat predictions since I did this the other day? Give me one guy that you think is going to have a big game and his stat line.
I think Justin Jolie puts the nation on watch and he says, I'm one of the best tight ends in the country. I think he
Okay.
goes for, I don't know how bold. I mean, let's say
He
like
never he
just
never had more than he had 5 receptions in one game last year. Never more than that.
5 receptions. I was going to say he goes for 102 touchdowns. I don't know
102
if,
touchdowns.
yeah, I don't know if that's not bold enough,
I
but
I had 6 for 90 with a touchdown. That was that
six
was
for
my
90.
that was my prediction.
I guess I'll just say 5 receptions. I think he'll get, I think. I already envision it. Like East Carolina sends a blitz, and then it's just Jolie one-on-one with the safety, and he like just beats him, and Bailey just
Yeah.
hits him in stride, something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think him in the open field against this defense could be very fun to watch.
yeah. He's yeah, I'm really excited to see that connection. I think that that's my one thing for this season is just watching that connection between Bailey and Jolie develop because man, even last year there's just some jump balls that Bailey just says, "Oh, well, just throw it up to him," and he just makes an
He'll
incredible
figure it
catch.
out.
So
He's down
he'll
there
figure it
somewhere.
out. Yeah, exactly. So, but I think this running game as well, I think it gets going. I think you're gonna see the Hollywood effect, and we've touched on some other running backs in the room, but I think Hollywood's really gonna kind of put assert himself as maybe a top five, top six back in this conference.
Okay. Okay. Well, we won't keep you for very long today, folks, but we're ready to watch some football too. Provide you some great coverage of the game, and make sure you know everything you need to know about your Wolfpack before that kick or before that ball is kicked into the end zone. Um, Again, I will be there Thursday providing some live coverage. Follow my Twitter at Senate Tucker. Dan's going to be providing updates on his Twitter and also the game thread on our website. You can follow our website's Twitter account at Wolfpack on SI. Follow Dan at Daniel_Rios72 and just get all the information you need from this game. He and I will certainly be going back and forth. He might be a little behind because he's watching on TV, but I'll make sure he knows what's going on. I'll be his binoculars, his contact, and we'll provide you the best possible coverage we can. And we're looking forward to a great season. As always, thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. Have a great one.